I love that the podcast Gypsy Tales kind of based off your lifestyle, right? You're floating around, you interview people, primarily in the motocross space.
Yeah, like motorsport, action sports world, kind of.
And I got to do the show with you, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about actually non-skateboarding or money. There's a lot of conversation around society. Out of all the places that you've traveled to, what do you think? Who do you think is doing it the best right now?
Oh, well, it's hard, eh? Like everywhere has its problems, and I think that's probably. I wonder whether some of America's problem is how much they focus on their problems as well, in terms of just like rhetoric around it. And it's like, we talk about California. So I lived in California all my 20s, basically, like moved here as a 21-year-old. And then I went back to Australia for 5 years at like 28 or 29. So it's like, I was here a long time, and it's like everyone loved California then, and everyone hates it now. And it's like really not that much different. Like it's probably better in a lot of ways. So I think that it's just in vogue at the moment to not like California as well. And it's like very politically motivated. It's very like there's a real like narrative around it. But I think Dubai does it awesome. But there's one family that runs like from the outside looking in, you could look at it as like it's an Arabic country with a dictator. Like that's how it could be perceived. That's not how it feels on the ground. Like everyone's pretty stoked on the dude. Like it kind of everything runs well. There's no crime. Like when people say there's no crime, like there's no crime. Right. I'll be working on my laptop at a cafe, and I'm like, I need to go to the toilet. And you just walk off to the toilet. Like that's a simple thing, but very valuable, in terms of your peace of mind. And like my wife will go running. The difference between her level of wanting to go running in Costa Mesa and just be out on the street versus going running in Dubai, there's like a big difference there.
Which is psycho.
But that's like really important in a society,
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think look, feeling safe is like the floor component to quality of life and making a society or a community thrive, right? You have to have it.
Yeah.
If you don't feel safe, you got no shot. And so, we're going through that right now. But I think it's actually a good point you made, like how you look at it when you focus on the positive versus focusing on the negative, kind of the glass half full type of mentality.
Yeah.
Do you think this is for a time?
Yeah, surely. Like I think everything's cyclical in just nature in general, like I think in business you have seasons, in life you have seasons, in nature you have seasons. Like I think the tide goes in, the tide comes out. And you just sort of don't, like the problems are there to know what you need to work on, right? And I think that, this is, like if we're talking still about like California, I just think that this is like a problem that's, I guess, happens over time, and it probably takes a while to fix it, and then a new problem will kind of emerge,
Yeah, I agree. I've always kind of believed in the pendulum swinging, and it hits to the right, and then it bounces to the left, and then it kind of just plays this game throughout time, which I think we're kind of now seeing a recentering happen. Yeah.
I wonder, like, because, to say that Dubai is great, and for all those reasons it is, but like, I don't know how that maps onto the West, because it's like it's ruled by a family. It's like, that's not a Western value. So I wonder, like...
Well, yeah, look, there's things we give up on when you start talking about just freedom in general, right? When you start talking about allowing people to do things, there's potential cons that come with that, and your ability to keep it strict. Like, did you see that thing about what was a viral video? Tucker Carlson went to the freaking grocery mart or the train station in Russia. And he's like, it's so clean here, right? Yeah, I guess if you're one person that kind of rules the show, you can make the argument that controlling people is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And so you get what you want, right? But we also know that there's a lot of big challenges that come with that.
We also picked a very specific location to go to that films and looks well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That was very selective.
Yeah, for sure. How much are you doing in the motocross space? Still doing a lot?
Yeah. I'd say, like with the podcast I never like really thought it would kind of go there. But I think I'm just very passionate about the sport. It's what I always did. So when the podcast thing happened, that was the Refidex, you know, like those were the guys that I had relationships with and had worked with. And then it just kind of went there and started seeing it have like a pretty positive impact on like the athletes and I'd say the sport in general. And I think in order to be like successful, I think you need to like niche down to a certain degree. I always kind of had the opinion that kind of like dominate a niche and then you can move sideways. And it's like whether you got like Formula One and motocross, for example, or Supercross. It's like Formula One's obviously a way bigger sport, but in terms of like if you've got the best podcast in this lane, you kind of just can move sideways to the best podcast in this, you know, like it's kind of comparable in that way.
Right.
So yeah, I think it was the thing that I knew, the industry that I was the most involved in, like really passionate about like bringing something new to it, a place where I'd like my ideas, like kind of could have free reign with my ideas, you know? And then I think now that we've built it up to what it is, makes those like sideways moves a little bit easier.
Yeah, and I would actually totally agree with you. Like it is a very fresh look on an industry. Like you talk about some deep stuff on there that isn't just about a video part and a trick, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think has been the most eye-opening like realization is, and maybe you knew these guys prior, but like as you sit down and talk to them, do you start to see like a reoccurring theme when it comes to motocross? Maybe a personality trait or, you know, a theme?
I think talent doesn't exist in the way that I thought it did, if that makes sense. Like, I was the kid that grew up that wasn't very good at motocross. Like, I was all right, like I was just average. And then you'd see these people and you'd be like, wow, they're just so talented. Like, I wish I was talented. And I think the biggest realization is like, oh no, you were just fucking lazy. Like you just weren't, like those guys just over and over and like repetition and repetition. It's funny, we were talking about jiu-jitsu before, but like I kind of also learned that in jiu-jitsu. Like I started doing jiu-jitsu like kind of right before I started the podcast. And I ended up getting quite good at it in a short period of time because the same way as you, I just got super obsessed with it. I did it 3 times a day for years. And I ended up being good at it. And then I would have people say to me like, oh man, you're really talented. And I'm like, no. So I think that has been this general theme. And in terms of like how it's affected my life, like now I just approach everything with that mindset, you know, that talent doesn't exist in the way that people generally think it does. And it's like, if you grind it out and if you work on the right things for long enough and you let compounding take effect, you will be successful. And I think that is the common theme.
Would you say it's 50% talent, 50% work ethic?
I think there's like the NBA is a good example of this, right? Like you could be the most savage dude, do the drills, everything. And if you're 5'7", you're never playing in the NBA. So like there is a balance of like the nature versus nurture almost, you know, right. Like I think you have to have a set of, genetic traits to do well at anything that you choose to do. But I think a sport like motocross, it's so much more about the athlete than the motorcycle, right. You know, and I think if you look at, it'd be like almost 80-20 versus F1 is 20-80 right. In terms of driver, car, bike rider kind of thing.
I mean, look at Kobe. Like he's got that pretty famous interview, right, where he says, you know, if you're a ball player and you wake up at 9 and you hit the gym from 10 to 12, and then you're going home and resting and then hitting it again from 3 to 5, you're getting 2 workouts a day. But if you wake up at 4, you hit the gym from 6 to 8, you go back, you hit the gym again 11 to 1, you go back, you hit the gym again 4 to 6, you go back, you hit the gym again. All of a sudden, you compound that over years, and my growth is monumentally above yours. And it's not an argument of talent. Yeah. It's an argument of work ethic.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, he always talked about when he started playing basketball, he sucked.
Yeah.
Like in high school, he sucked.
So did Jordan.
Jordan as well, right? And see, like Conor McGregor has the, you know, famous quote, like talent is nothing. It's all about obsession and dedication, right? You know, it's fascinating though, because Tiger Woods actually talked about this, right? You have Phil Mickelson or you have John Daly, right? And Tiger was known for being like Kobe, just obsessive and militant on his craft, right? And like Mickelson or John Day, like came easy for him, right? And it came so easy that they felt like they didn't have to practice. And, you know, Tiger said one day, he's like, they would be better than me in a heartbeat. They just don't want it as bad.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, of course, like there definitely is you have to have some type of coordination to start.
Yeah.
And then once you do, I think it 100% goes towards focus and commitment.
Well, and I think to understanding that you always have a bias towards what you're good at. So I think that's why you kind of see like the cream rise to the top in anything. Because if you have like any inherent natural talent, quote unquote, that you would have is going to make you good at the thing. And then that then starts this positive feedback loop, you know? And I think that if I look back to like my life with motocross, it really didn't come that easy to me. So it was hard to work on. It was hard to do the practice. And then that feedback was more about self-doubt and negativity and just being a young kid. I didn't have the tools to mentally deal with that. You know, I don't think that's a deal breaker, but I think I didn't have the tools to push through that, you know. But then I think I look at something like jiu-jitsu, like that positive feedback straight away. I got it. I understood it. And I could see. Also, there's like with the belt system, like you start with these people, and generally if you like walk into a class, there's a dude that started 2 days before you, 2 weeks. Like you're always around, like there's a peer group and you kind of know who that peer group is. So you get immediate feedback of like, me and this dude have been doing it at the same time and I'm way better than him. So I think there's a process where talent almost self-selects because there's a feedback loop that is positive versus negative.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. That's good. So for something like, well, gosh, just as you said that, I kind of stumbled on it because it brought me back to me.
I was going to say, you can probably think about this in your own terms.
Yeah, for me, it was like skating. It did not come easy. Like, it was not natural for me. And I had two friends who it was easy for them, right? And my whole thing was like, I just wanted to be as good as them. And it just never was as easy. But there's a part of me that Michael knows this. I hate losing, and it drives me nuts when I can't do something. So it was like the perfect combination of watching people better than me, mixed with I'm a pretty obsessive and competitive person. And that's what drove me to eventually get good. But man, like I felt like I was like had to be the hardest working skater because I felt like nothing was easy, which ended up benefiting me, right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say there's probably a real like sweet spot where you're good enough to get some positive feedback to want to keep going, but you're not too good that it becomes too easy that you're playing the game with cheat codes.
Yeah.
You know, because
right.
there are people where it's just not challenging for them and they mail it in and then they're never going to get the full juice out of it because like they're never even, like Phil Mickelson's probably a good example, you know, like where if he was grinding the way the Tiger would, like he probably would get that experience, but he's already operating in the sweet spot. So he's like, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. We had so one of the kids I grew up with, I was always like wanted to be as good at. His name was Justin Case, right? And he was just spewing talent. And it was too easy. It was like cheat code to him, right? And then we had a friend, Paul Rodriguez, who was the perfect blend of just God-given ability and just pure obsession. And then you saw him become, you know, one of the best skaters we've ever seen ride a skateboard. And so, yeah, there's a blend. For Paul, I bet it was like as close to 50-50 as it could be.
Yeah, and they're the dudes that win. Tiger, obsessive, gnarly dude. Kobe, Jordan, like they're the right height. They're the right, you know, a guy like Steph Curry's probably just on that, you know, if he was any smaller of a guy, maybe it doesn't line up all the way.
Right. What's the health of the motocross industry right now?
I would say it's doing really well.
Good.
Yeah. To be honest, I think that with sport, you need to be able to follow a sport without having to watch it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So like the NFL, I follow the NFL. and I don't really watch many games. Like, I watch the Super Bowl. Like, I might watch a couple if I'm at a barbecue or whatever, right? But I will, like, follow the sport because social media and YouTube and algorithms, and, like, I'm being served this content, whether I like it or not. Like, subconsciously, I'm into NFL and basketball enough to see the best shit every single weekend. Right. So I think motocross and supercross didn't have that. Like, and for that, you need to have this, like, organic mix of the sport and the organization doing the broadcasting and the pre-race and all that shit, right? But then you've also got to have independent creators like me that aren't affiliated with the sport, they're incentivized to make content because they're making money off content. And then you get 4 or 5 guys that are doing great podcasts, great shows, great content. You're following all of them. And no matter whether you watch the race on the weekend or not, you know what's going on. You know who won. You're seeing the best moments. And so I think over the last few years, motocross and supercross is getting that. And that would make me think that it's going in the right direction. And then stadium attendance has been great. Like, most of the races have been sold out. We just did a new TV deal that was, I think it was like $7 million. I don't know whether that's like a year or over. I'd have to assume it's a year. But that's with Peacock and NBC. So now all the races are streamed live on Peacock across both series. The series as well, I'm not sure how much you would know about this, but so you've got motocross, which is outdoors in the field, basically. I'm doing my wife's explanation of the sport. This. So, like, the motocross is racing in the field and supercross is racing in the stadiums, right? Those two series had like a 20-year Cold War where they fully hated each other. Feld family, Coombs family, like, no bueno. Like, they kind of had this rough agreement. It's actually a very unique sport when you really lay it all out. But they kind of had this agreement, like, we'll run in the summer, you run in the winter, but that was it. But it's all the same riders, it's all the same teams, it's all the same. But, like, they're lumped in whether they like it or not. And so they had this, like, 20-year Cold War that basically come to an end last year. So they formed this, it's called now the Super Motocross Championship, 31 races. I think motocross gave up one of their rounds. The Supercross gave up Monster Cup, which was like the big one-off race in Vegas. They added 3 playoff rounds, all live on NBC. Like, so yeah, the sport is finally starting to get amalgamated and together and start to move in that direction. And then you've got like all these independent media creators that are coming along. And we've also got these 2 Australian boys, the Lawrence brothers.
I've heard of them.
You've seen these guys?
My in-laws are super into motocross and supercross. They talk about them a lot.
So,
they're like phenoms.
Oh, insane. So in the 450 class, you've got 2 brothers from Australia that are winning everything. Jet Lawrence might be like the most dominant athlete in any sport right now, period. Like, I can't think of another dude that's doing what he's done. He won rookie season, won 22 races in a row, completely swept the series. Only 2 dudes to do that before is Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart, 2 of the best ever. So you've got that going on. His younger brother's getting second in every race, basically. Oh, his older brother. And then you've got Hayden Deegan, son of Brian Deegan, in the 250 class that he's won everything so far in the outdoors championship. So
we're cooking.
I think we're cooking, honestly. Like, it's and it's been very exciting to be a part of and watch it grow and like have a little bit of influence too into how the sport's viewed on the outside.
Right. Are there still people doing like video parts? Is there still like
not as much as they should, eh?
Right.
Yeah, we're missing out on that a bit. A lot of the guys are doing like vlogs and stuff now. Like, a lot of the guys will have filmers and they'll go to all the races with them and they've got their own YouTube channels and stuff like that. So that in that way, but I miss video parts.
Right. Is there any like, to date me, who's like the new metal militia? Is there like a crew that's just hot right now? Or did that die out too?
Nah, I mean, you kind of got it. Like, dude, X Games is coming back too, eh? Like,
X Games is out here.
Did you go to Ventura last year?
I missed last year, but this year
Are you gonna go?
I'm speaking in a panel.
Dude, that's epic. Yeah, I
totally.
mean, X Games is coming back too. But so to answer your question, there's Jacko Strong. So he's an Aussie dude that's just the fucking gnarliest guy in the world. Like, if If you knew the things that guy did, that like it'd make the on the bike stuff look like that's his little fun side hustle.
Oh, like his real life, he's a psycho.
He's just gnarly. Like flies planes, jumps off buildings, like just he blows shit up. Like he's just a fool.
He's like the one. Who's the one guy? Pastrana,
Travis.
Travis.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
he's
like the Metal Militia version of that. And then you got. Have you ever seen Axel Hodges? You heard of Axel?
No.
So there's a kid, Axel Hodges. He's super tied in with Monster actually, and he's built this place in San Diego that is like a literal video game. It's so insane, the size of the jumps and all the stuff that he's built out there. But he's got like millions of followers on Instagram. All his videos get like hundreds of thousands of views. So yeah, there's like that scene's like slowly coming back too.
I seen something on TikTok yesterday. Some guy walks into like his trailer, his like girlfriend or wife or something.
That's him.
Hits her on the butt.
That's it. That's the guy.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I watched that video like 3 times. That's he like walks. So it's just it's like it feels like a one shot, like a no edit clip, and it starts like in his trailer, and he walks into his trailer. His like girl gives him something, he like kisses her, hits her on the butt, walks out, and the camera pans, and he jumps on his bike that's waiting for him, and then he does like these tricks, and just like it was sick, like the song, the vibe. Okay, so
that's the guy. Okay, but man, there's like
Michael's like, what the heck is this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's unreal, and his missus is a smoke show too. Like he's fully killing it, and he's the nicest guy, like the nicest, coolest guy. So there's also Hayden Deegan, which is like
I've heard. Yeah, well, I knew his dad. Well, I didn't know his dad, but I know who his dad is.
Phenomenon, dude.
Right.
Like it's so crazy how good that kid is as well. So he's 18, I think, and he won the SMX, like so the 3-round playoff series at the end of the year. He won it last year. It was his rookie year, so in the 250 class. But man, you go to races, so they do the Deegan's YouTube channel. So since he was on a 50, they've filmed his whole amateur career, his whole pro career. So they've got 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube.
The Kardashians of the motocross world.
Legit, man.
Dang.
And so you go to the races now, and they're just like, hate it. And all the team, there's like 5 guys that ride on his team, and they all fucking hate it because they're pro dudes that are out there racing with him, and they're like, can you go get Hayden? And they're like, bro, seriously, like I'm also racing, But yeah, just like mobs of people come to see this kid.
But is it being on NBC and Peacock really what's going to make it a little bit more mainstream? Because everything like on YouTube and Instagram, it's people that are, attracted to the sport. But going on Peacock or NBC is really what's going to get the masses, is it not?
But it's been on TV prior to this, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's never had
but think about the UFC.
Yes.
Right? So like Dana White, who gets a lot of hate for a lot of different reasons. Somebody I actually admire a whole of a hell lot because this guy took over the company and had the wherewithal to make it mainstream by getting a series on Spike TV that just blew it up. Right? Like that first series of The Ultimate Fighter is what got all of these eyes that would never have watched the UFC to all of a sudden watch it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the finale.
Yes,
it was actually the fight of the finale.
Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner.
Where mid-fight, the ratings skyrocketed.
Oh, you don't know this story?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, mid-fight of the last episode, the ratings skyrocketed. And this guy took this company that was worth almost nothing, and he's made it a massive conglomerate.
$12 billion.
Well, I know that.
Just by bringing the masses and getting eyes on it in a way that maybe only the hardcore followers do. I mean, how many more people are in MMA now because of it? In jiu-jitsu? I mean, this guy has been a trendsetter in so many ways that he doesn't get a lot of recognition for solely because of that, which is why I was asking if motocross is going that direction or not.
Yeah, and I think it was always on TV, to your point, but I just don't. That's not enough.
All right.
I think it's the you, to be on social media and to see that guy on social media, we're in a time where you need to have people not check out of your sport, basically. It's just a 24/7, you have the ability to follow what's going on outside, even if you miss the TV, even if you, I would say I'm an NFL fan, and hardcore NFL fans are probably like, well, you're not a fan if you don't watch the games. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm just this kind of fan. And that's where the numbers is in the the people that you can suck in to just be a part of be a part of the conversation. It comes up on your feed whether you're looking for it or not, you know. But I think the TV package is like the backbone of that, you know. And so now to have like all of the races on the one channel, everything's consistent. Like before, you used to have to buy one subscription to watch Supercross, one subscription to watch Motocross. Like you wouldn't know what times it was on, different commentators, different everything. So yeah, I think the fact that when you bring everything under the one umbrella, I think then you give a chance for like everything else to grow on top of it.
Have you put 12 racers in a house on a reality show and see where it takes off?
Dude, I can't believe you didn't know that. The
UFC story?
You need to watch.
No, I only know the business side of it.
But that particular
that is
night,
the business side.
No, I didn't know the story of when they first got recognition with the show.
So they put these 12 dudes in a house, and it was just feral. Like they got this big house in Vegas, and these fighters were just fucking gnarly, dude. Like they were on the piss every single night, like wasted, like just bashing each other, wrestling, ripping through the house. And Dana was just like, well, I guess fucking this is our show, you know? But then they would fight every show. There was like you basically get eliminated until they got to the finale. And the finale was live it must have been on Spike TV.
It was Spike
then.
TV.
Yeah. So there's people, like it went viral on television. So basically people.
Dang, that's cool.
Yeah, people. And I remember I was a kid in Australia, and I grew up doing martial arts, so we always watched it. But I remember being a kid in Australia watching that fight live. And so the story goes is that everyone just started calling their friends like, dude, you have to turn this on Spike TV right now. And these two, one of the guys looks like an accountant. The other guy looks like a fighter, and they're in this cage covered in blood, just having a war, bro. Like on free television. And that was the thing and I'm pretty sure like it was it after that. They kind of like, they put all the chips in on this live TV thing.
I tuned in from a phone call. I got that phone call from a buddy who was like, dude, are you watching this thing on Spike TV? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there's these two fools with little gloves going off on each other. You have to turn it on. And I turned it on, and like at that time, it was really just like about the fight. But to your point, once you like start going behind just the fight aspect of it and the business side, I mean, this guy's a visionary, right? Like he gets a lot of hate, but Dana White is a visionary in so many ways. You can't be a visionary
and not get hate.
Yeah.
So you know he gets a lot of shit for a lot of the things that he does, but what he managed to do with this company and with the sport, I mean, MMA exists because of the UFC.
Yeah.
It would have died out, and it was on that path, and he course corrected it in a very big way. And now you have thousands of kids that are training in mixed martial arts that would probably be in the street doing some bad stuff had it not been the case. And so I don't think he gets a lot of the credit that he deserves. But when you look at it from a business standpoint, it is a case study for grad schools to study on how to take something that is on its way down, buy it for cents on the dollar, and he exited for $4 billion.
Yeah, 4 or 5 billion.
You don't think he gets credit?
I think he gets credit. I just think he gets a lot more hate than he gets credit.
But I think one of the things that they did amazing, and it's actually something that Supercross did really well, that I think really laid the foundation for like all this, you know, the new TV deal and everything. Right. But they kept it going through COVID. So UFC. Feld in Supercross. So UFC did as well. So Dana White was like the first guy that was like, you know what, COVID's a thing, but we're going to figure it out. Like we have to keep doing fights. So they did a fight island in Abu Dhabi, and he was all in the news for that. But Supercross did the same thing. They did like I guess it was halfway through the season or something like that, or they'd got a few rounds in. They did like a 6-week bubble in Salt Lake City. So they actually, like Feld, the company that owns Supercross, they actually did a 6-week residency in Salt Lake. They got together with the Utah Sports Commission and just like fully made it happen. And they were one of the only sports that was still happening live during COVID as well. Damn. And I think, so it's in terms of like a business case study, you know, like that's great business is to like fully make it happen for yourselves. And the story is really cool. So one of the Coombs, it's actually kind of cool even in the context of how they didn't talk or work together. But one of the family members of the Coombs family, which runs the Motocross series, she's a lawyer, or was a lawyer. and just fully doctored up this like safe to race program. They took it to NASCAR, they took it to Supercross, and they just fully kept everything going through COVID, you know? So, and I think that actually laid the platform for the next few years and to get that big TV deal.
Dang.
And that TV deal also, the last race of that SMX, the playoff series that they did, the 450 winner got $1 million. So a 19-year-old kid won $1 million that night with his bonus probably 2.5. And then Hayden Deegan, a 17-year-old kid, won $500,000 plus, like he probably made $750 that night. So, and that's because of the money that they got from this TV deal.
So these kids are making money then. Is everyone making money or just the winners?
Bro.
Everyone's making money.
No,
everyone's full.
No, we won't say everyone, but there's a solid roster of dudes. Like I would hate to know I'd love to know the number. One of the guys that was on the podcast the other week, Levi Kitchen, he is a light 250 rider, was in the hunt for the championship. He lost by a couple points. $750,000 night for him as a 25-year-old kid, 24-year-old kid. But we were talking about on the podcast, he reckons Jet as a 19-year-old kid would have made $9 million last year.
Okay, we're talking real money.
And he bought himself a Rolls-Royce Cullinan.
Stop,
and he bought it in Birkenstocks. There's this photo, like he didn't take the photo to like flex or nothing, but the dealership takes this photo. It's fucking iconic, bro. He's wearing basketball shorts, socks, and Birkenstocks, and there's like standing in front of his $400,000 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. So, and that was his bonus for his little championship. I think he did.
Oh, he
better.
bought the car or he got the car?
Bought it.
He bought it.
Oh, he bought
it. Yeah.
That's more painful.
Yeah, so he bought but if you make millions over what you thought you were going to make and you did all your investments and
if you did all the investments.
That's
which I know.
Kids being smart with their money?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he bought himself a little $400,000 Rolls Royce at 19. So yeah, the kids are making money. The kids are doing fine, which I love to see.
Hell yeah. I love that too. Is it expensive to get into? Is it like golf?
How expensive is golf to get into? Like, what would you say?
Oh, it's brutal. Well, okay, so the gear itself,
yeah,
you know, golf shoes, golf clubs, everything all in, it's like $1,500.
Yeah.
But dude, it's like $100 every time you want to play golf.
Run it up.
It runs up.
Every time you want to get the range, 25, 30.
It runs up.
Yeah.
It's a full line item.
When we built this office, he wanted to get a simulator.
As you should.
That's right.
It was like 65 G's.
No, that was for the crazy.
Yeah, but it's an investment.
Hold on.
He seems like the afraid to spend money guy.
You are not.
No.
You do not hang out with me enough.
Hang on. Which is the one you wanted?
I'm not going to say that I didn't look at the nicest one.
The GC?
Yeah.
Yeah, GC5.
I think it was like 55.
Yeah, they're fucking good though.
Gangster.
Like really good.
Yeah. It was
like
sick.
Swing angle, swing path.
The problem,
attack,
but the problem wasn't spending the money on the golf simulator.
I wouldn't
Where
work.
The problem is he wouldn't be nowhere to be found.
I wouldn't work. Correction.
It would be very easy
You'd
to
be
find.
able to find
Yeah,
I meant mentally.
Fair. Yeah. So, dude, we have golf clubs all around the office.
Yeah, they're all my golf clubs.
I can't tell you how many times I'm holding a golf club, listening or doing something with Tawny and swinging in the club. It's just, it's an obsession.
I think you've earned that, though.
Thank you.
I think you've earned the right to be able to walk around with your golf club in your office.
You
Not
know
his
what?
golf clubs.
Yeah.
What we're going to do after this, we're going to walk out, and I just want to bring all 30 of everyone in the office together.
Yeah.
I'll just have you present that to the group.
Just present this idea. I would say motocross it's probably a bit more expensive to get into. I think it's one of the cool
But there's upside, it sounds like. Like, if you make it, you're... Like, skateboarding's not like this. Snowboard's not like this.
Yeah.
Motocross, you're doing it.
Yeah, I think motocross is a bit of a sleeper sport in that regard, you know, and it's funny, there's like a bit of not an argument, but like a topic that comes up, and I've thought about it a bunch of, should you really tell people what they're making? Is it anybody's business? And I think about it a lot because it's like, all right, well, should people know how much I make off the podcast? And that's what you'd ask yourself to like justify your own opinion, right? But I'm like, I don't know that it makes the show any better to watch, right? Like, if you know how much the podcast makes as a fan, does it make the podcast better? Not really. I would argue that it makes the sport better to know what these guys are making. And, you know, like you didn't know, like 19-year-old kid could net $9 million in a year off the sport. So I think that's one of the appeals of golf. It's one of the appeals of tennis. Like, we would have those conversations when little Johnny taking him to tennis lessons or whatever, you know. But motocross, yeah, like, you crack it big, you can make millions of dollars, you know.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because like in skating, it felt like they purposely did not tell you what other people made, or that you weren't allowed to say anything about that.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, I'd find out what somebody made. I'm like, for real? And then you know what I was asking for that next round. So I think it definitely has the ability to elevate the whole gang when you know what people are worth, you know. But the challenge is, like, skateboarding, like, we don't have that stadium success like you guys have. We're nowhere close to that. So like look, as a skater, like, I would love to make millions, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure our industry supports it. We can't sell that type of either seat, experience, or product. Very few can. Or motocross, like, when you have, like, my in-laws, like my father-in-law, his boys, everybody watches that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just have a much bigger audience.
Yeah, and I think we're in a very unique spot in our sport because, like, man, the pits get filled up and it's like $100 million roadshow, you know, of manufacturers. So there's 9 manufacturers. By 2025, there's going to be 9 manufacturers that will field a team. So that's a semi. Have you guys ever been to a Supercross?
I've been to one.
Okay, we got to get you guys.
I used to ride for DC, so we would go to
yeah.
one in, like, Anaheim, maybe.
Yeah. You guys
I had no clue what I was watching, but I would go now. My son would love it.
Well, so they drive these big ass semi trailers in, and they got, like, the awnings and all the bikes. So there's going to be 9 manufacturers. Ducati's coming in, Triumph is coming in, and typically in the 90s and early 2000s, it was basically just Japanese manufacturers. So I think that kind of probably created, like, a little bit of a disconnect, as well as because you've got HQs in Japan, and then you've got, like, an office in somewhere in, you know, Tustin or Irvine or whatever, and as corporate head office there. But I think now we're getting, like, Ducati's coming in, we're getting Triumph, we're getting, like, these outside of that, Austria with KTM, Gas, Husky. So, yeah, I mean, we're in this unique position that the sport is backed by these guys where, like, they still can win on a Sunday, sell on a Monday type of vibe. There's gear companies, there's goggle companies, there's, like, we have an entire industry from the bottom up, top down, of you can be a participant in this sport in a way that, to be a NASCAR fan, to be a Formula One fan, you just can't quite experience that sport in the way that you can as a fan of motocross and supercross, you know?
Right. Does Tesla ever get into motocross?
Dude, funny story, actually. There is a Tesla of motocross, and it's called Stark Future. And so the company, it's actually epic. Like, you would love the CEO, Anton. He's like a fucking Swedish legend, like Viking-looking dude, super smart. But anyway, they've just come in a couple of years ago with an all-electric bike. But the problem is it's, like, too good to race.
What do you mean?
Well, if they started racing that Stark right now against every other manufacturer, so the whole thing of, like, all the guys that have been racing the sport for 50 years, they'd fucking win straight away. So it's like there's a reluctance. We're actually in this weird spot where you've got a bike, this brand new bike that's come along that's so good and so different, 100% electric, and they're just scared to let it race with the other bike.
Because it's too good.
It's too good.
Oh, it's so funny, dude.
So they're stopping it?
Yeah. It's like kind of a thing. It's like obviously they're pissed because they want their side of the argument is we have built this amazing vehicle that is for sale to the public the same way all these other bikes are for sale to the public, and we don't get a chance to showcase that we're the best bike. And then the sport is going, well, fuck, we've got these 9 other manufacturers that have been involved in this for 50 years, and this is like, there's this whole economy. We kind of don't know if we can just throw you guys in there right now and just fully change everything. So, yeah.
Dang, is it wrong to say that they're not the best bike anymore?
No, well, I mean...
Or do they just do an electric series?
Yes, that's probably what they'll do. But the thing is then is, like, does that do a disservice to the company that is trying to prove that, you know what I mean? Like they want to prove they're the best bike, but how do you prove you're the best bike if you're just the best electric bike?
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, I'd say that's probably what they're going to do. But then there's also just an argument about, you know, you go into the stadium and it's so loud and it's such like a visceral experience.
That part's cool. That's a cool part about it.
Yeah, and then you go, but I mean, the NBA, like the basketball doesn't make that much noise, you know, like baseball doesn't make that much noise. Like, do you need noise to have an experience? Not really. But I think when it comes to motorsports, the motor part of it definitely adds to the experience. So it's a pretty interesting time right now, and they're the only one. Like they first to market, and it's like a GoPro, right? Like now everyone will just call it a stock. No one calls it an e-bike. No one calls it an electric dirt bike. They just call it a stock. And their first product was so insanely good. It's honestly a remarkable story. They're based out of Barcelona. The founder's a Swedish dude. He exited a huge tech company for multi-million euros, and then just went and just put it all into this bike company.
Dang, that's cool. I love that. I mean, dude, like my girls, they tripped out not too long ago, a month ago, that Tesla is a car. Like they do the same thing.
It's
they
a Tesla.
That Tesla is a Tesla, and then everyone else has cars.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
No, they're all cars.
Yeah,
it's like the same branding hit. Yeah. Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like a GoPro.
Yeah.
Every time you have a action sport, it's a camera. It's a GoPro.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't even fucking know. Insta360. It's a DJI. No, it's just a GoPro.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, they did that. They got the e-bike thing, and it's a stock.
Are people buying it? Is it consumer?
Yeah. And it's really, really
that's
good.
That's what's going to end up changing the motocross space. Is every consumer is going to be on them, and then everyone's going to ride them, and then they're going to look at them and go. Once the average person can do what the pros can, only because the bike is better, you'll see a switch.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing this whole generation. Like I grew up, I had a dirt bike with gasoline, and it fucking went bang, and that's how it moved, you know. But there's a whole generation of kids, like even your kids, like your kids might never drive a gasoline car.
I know.
You know, so there's this whole generation of kids that are riding. They're called Stasics, just like a little electric. It's got like a drill battery in them. You know?
I know what they are.
Yeah,
my nephew has one. We're looking at getting my son one.
Yep. So you just got that all the way through, and then you got a KTM 50 if the kid wants to race.
Yeah, we have a 50 too.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, so there's going to be this whole generation of kids that just grow up.
Oh, 100%.
On electric bikes.
Yeah, I'm not sure my two youngest will even drive ever.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Nor should they.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous.
Without
but learning how to drive stick shift was so much fun as a 16-year-old.
Oh, dude, for sure.
I hated stick shift at 16.
I loved it. I loved everything about it.
I just love anything that you can make blow up. And that's just what a bike is.
Well, yeah, but then that's going to go against your statement, right? Like if there's no danger, is there really ever any fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like racing the bikes, like I think what they do is incredibly dangerous, right. You know. So I think like that element will go there. But for me, it was just I think about riding, and I've thought about it so much. Like, why was I just obsessed with this very obscure thing,
right.
You know? But it's like you think about what you're doing to a kid when you're giving him a dirt bike. There's probably 4. I was 4 when I started riding, right? So you got a 4-year-old, and you're like, oh, yeah, I've just poured this highly flammable liquid into this thing that's just won't stand up by itself. You have to keep it up. It's got 2 wheels. And every time you twist the throttle, it's going to explode more inside there, and it's going to go far. Like, that's a crazy thing to give to a kid, you know? And it's like a 4-year-old has no control over their life at all, ever. And you're just giving them control of this exploding vehicle. So it's like...
So once you guys have kids, will you give your 4-year-old a bike?
Fucking oath.
Yeah. 100%. My son is fired up on him. Oh. He's like, that's a dream. Just bike, fast wheels. Vroom.
Yeah. Just give me the helmet. Just wear the helmet around the house.
Yeah.
They came to dinner at our house last Friday night, and his son was decked out in a full motocross uniform.
I love that.
Yeah.
With his own name on the back of the jersey and the whole thing.
He's just like, it's interesting to see kids' personalities and how they differ from their siblings in growing up at the same household. But he is just cars and bikes, just wear more, Yeah.
Yeah, there's honestly something to it, eh? Like, I just think certain kids gravitate towards like that feeling of freedom and control.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. Like, you're in control of this out of control thing. Like, people would always say like, oh, how hard is it even to ride? Because I ride a fair bit now. And I'm like, all right, if I go down this dirt road, I'm doing 60 miles an hour and I just let go, I'm dead. Like, the bike does not stay up by itself. So it's like, this is a big responsibility, and so there's like a certain feeling that comes with that.
Yeah.
And I think for a kid though too, and you'd know this with skating probably even more so, like the level of pain that you would have pushed through in your life versus a normal person is like astronomical. And just that willingness to like hit the ground. And there's so many like metaphorical ways where you hit the ground in life, And I think that if you come from a base of action sports, whether it's skating, I think, jiu-jitsu is, I think moto probably goes another level further because the risk of injuries, like I've had a lot of broken bones, I've had life-threatening injuries from it, So I think to be able to like mentally, like last big injury I had, I broke a hip. Mentally, I broke my hip. I knew my hip was broken. I'm laying on the ground waiting for the paramedics. And in my head, I'm already rebuilding. Like the thing has happened. And I'm like, fuck, all right, I got to call this person. This is who I'm going to do my rehab with. This is what I got to do. I'm going to stay here so I don't have to use the stair. I'm going to, like you kind of just go into this mode. The average person falls and breaks their hip, like just life over. You know what I mean? So I think you're a young guy, like to get them into something that is quote unquote dangerous and risky. Like, I just feel like there's so much life skill in that you're just not going to get anywhere else,
100%.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson says you should let your children do dangerous things cautiously, but don't ever stop them from doing dangerous things because they will fall, they will get hurt, and they'll figure out how to get back up and do it again. But if you don't let them do it to begin with, how are they ever going to have any adversity?
Well, and then you create this like conundrum to solve, right? Where you're like, fuck, I love this. Like, this just really hurt me, like bad. And my instinct is telling me to stop, but my heart's telling me not to stop. Like how many times would you have had something crazy bad happen in skating and you're like faced with that decision of like, fuck, is this worth it? Like, why do I do that? So I think it's like you can break a leg doing anything, but I think it doesn't have the same level of like meaning in terms of the decision that it then forces you to make. Like, do I give up because this got hard and I got broken, or do I love this so much that I'll go back and face the same risk again,
Yeah, you're being tested to find out how much you really... You're putting your money where your mouth is, right? Yeah. It's easy to talk about how great we are, how much we love something, but once you get hit in the face and the realization that it can go away, then you really see what you have.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, I don't know, it's like the refining fire, or like, strength is built through challenge. It's I think there's a ton of metaphors. I totally agree with you. Like, I would not be able to do any of this without skateboarding. No way.
Yeah.
Just starting a business, it's awful.
It's honestly the worst.
It's the worst. It is awful.
Yeah.
You cannot go through that without having been through some type of battle that has prepared you to at least be optimistic in the challenge, knowing it will get better if you don't fail. Yeah. You have to hold on to that. If you don't see any light at the tunnel, you're going to give up the second it gets hard.
Yeah, and you can also be compelled.
Yeah.
By a thing, and I think like, with what I do with the podcast, like you just get to a level where like you're so invested and you're so passionate that like even when you've got $1,500 in your bank account and you're looking at all the outgoings, you can just fucking bunker down and get through that stuff. And even when in the same as getting an injury off a bike where like your brain's saying, bro, like it's over, just fucking go do something else, be normal. Like, but then it's almost like even against your own best advice, you still do the thing. Yeah. And I think that's what you need to be successful in life is like, I'm sure everyone that was successful wanted to quit, like really legitimately wanted to quit, but there was like, you were compelled to keep going, you know,
right.
like you almost didn't have free will in the matter.
Right.
And I think that's just like a thing that gets trained. And the more success, the more times you bounce back from a thing that was like that, the better it just becomes like an instinct that you hit the ground, you get back up.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I want to finish on this. I'm curious about this one. In skateboarding, like, it was always scary to like be a pro skateboarder and get married.
Yeah.
Or have kids, because that was always like the end of your career.
Yeah.
Right? For most people, it's just getting married. With motocross, it seems like having your wife there is like actually common, and it seems like some of these guys are having kids. Does that not happen where a rider gets married, has kids, and they're still the best for a long time? Or do you have that same career risk as you have in skateboarding?
I don't know. I think there's just a big element of like not wanting to get married because you still want to get pussy. Like I think once that urge goes, you know what I mean? Like I think once that urge goes away, then like getting married is like the fucking best thing ever. So
it's not career. The decision is not based on your career.
I just think it's like, I don't think it's the same thing. Like I think why these guys don't want to get married is because they just still want to go out and get ass. So, but like in motocross specifically, like I think getting married would be like very positive. Okay. But I think having kids would be harder. Like that would layer in terms of the career, because I mean, I can't speak from experience, but it's like, I just feel like the risk that these guys take, like there is a point when you have a family and you have the things that you want in your life, like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? So I think that's probably the thing that slows kids down. Like as far as, I mean, I can speak from my experience on this. Like my wife helps my life dramatically, like huge net positive. She's involved in all the stuff that we do. She helps me with any of the things that I need, and without her, it would be a much more difficult process. And I think being a professional athlete, if you've got a woman by your side that like knows her place on race day, is okay with you being as selfish as you need to be a professional athlete, because that's like a big thing, right? Is like there's a level of selfishness that you have to have. I think that's the same in business even, you know, like business and being an athlete and a businessman, I think is a very similar endeavor. But yeah, I think that if you've got someone that is like down with the selfishness for that season of your life and knows their place and doesn't overstep and doesn't interject at the wrong times, massive net positive. So yeah, I don't think it has a negative effect.
Jase, where are people finding you? Let's give a shout out to the podcast.
If you search Gypsy Tales on all the platforms, if I do my job properly, it should just come up. So we don't have to get too specific. And just Instagram, Jase Macalpine, and yeah, on all the platforms.
Appreciate you, big dog. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.